Hello, this is a demo of problem 3. So what we're doing here are calculating with reference cells. And the reference cells just mean that we're going to do a calculation and tell Excel to look at certain cells that are specified in the problem itself. So yours is similar to this. I'm going to go through and demonstrate it with a slightly different data set. So calculation 1, you're told to count how many individuals provided scores using the count A function. So the count A function just refers to count all. You'll want to keep your eye up in this formula bar to see how we use the formula. As you know, we always start with that equal sign, and now we'll type in count A. You can see it comes up here with prompts if that's helpful to you. But we've told it now we want it to count all of something. Well, it's asking us what do we want to count? So let's put an opening parenthesis. And now we're going to, when the cursor with the active cursor in the formula, not moving that, you'll see that when you move off that cell, your cursor turns into a white square. So now when it's this white square, it's going to reference these cells that I'm highlighting. So I'm just going to scroll down and highlight each set of initials in our data set. And if we look up in our formula bar, you'll see that it's selected just those cells. So we want to count all of these participants. I've highlighted only the cells containing participants. They have this vibrating bar around them indicating that they're active. We can put our cursor up in the formula bar, put the closing parenthesis, and hit enter. And it tells us that the answer is 23 in the data set. And I'll show you the formula once again. Equals count A, then we put an opening parenthesis and we selected the cells we wanted it to count using that white cross. Now I missed one, so I'm going to redo the selection. And I missed one again, so let me start over here. Let's go ahead and go back into the formula bar and select just those cells. Don't lift up your cursor until everyone is selected. Put the closing parenthesis and enter. All right, calculation 2. Find the sum of all the scores in the score 2 column using cell references. So all that means is we're going to use our sum formula that we used before. So here is equals sum and opening parenthesis. Equals sum and opening parenthesis. Now you can look up in the formula bar and you can see that we're just going to do the same thing. We want to add up all the scores under score 2. So here's that white square again. Let's go ahead and select all those cells. We can put our closing parenthesis and enter. And you can see it told us the sum for all those is 1,842. Calculation 3, we're going to use the min function to find the lowest score in the score 1 column. Otherwise, we'd have to eyeball it, right? So min just stands for minimum. So we can use equals and we can type min for minimum, the lowest score. Opening parenthesis. So it's telling us find the minimum score or the lowest score in this data set. And we can select the cells in this way. There are easier methods of selecting cells I'll show you down the road. For now, this is the way we'll do it. And it tells us that the lowest score is 61. Next, we go on and we subtract score 2 from score 1 for the student with the initials YY using cell references. So let's go ahead and type our equal sign. And now using cell references means that we're not going to type in 79 minus 87. Instead, we're going to click in the cell with the 79 and subtract the 87 and hit enter. We find out that it's -8, that the second score was 8 points lower than the first score. Here's our student, and that looks right. And later on, you'll see when we get into doing work with larger data sets, why it's helpful to use these reference cells instead of typing in numbers. Add score 1 and score 2 for student KSD. Here's student KSD using reference cells. So equals, I think I'll use the sum function, equals the sum. And here I'm going to just select these 2 cells, put my closing parenthesis and enter. And finally, calculation 6, find the sum of all the scores in the score 1 column using cell references and divide that sum by the number of scores in that column. So this is your trickiest one. So we're going to have to add up all the scores in the score 1 column and divide by the number of scores in that column. Now, we already know the number of scores in that column is 23 because we counted them before, right? So let's go ahead, use our cell references. Let's start by getting the sum equals sum, and let's get all these scores. And I'll put my closing parenthesis now, otherwise we'll have a problem with order of operations. So now we're telling you we want the sum of all those scores, and we want to divide by the number of scores. I know that this is the number of scores, so I'm going to just click in this cell. We don't want to type numbers when we're on our cell referencing page, and we can hit enter. And this actually tells us that the average score, that's how we get the average, for the score 1 is 78.04, etc. And that is the demo to this lesson. I hope it was helpful. As always, let me know if you need any more assistance with it. Thanks, everyone.